The item on the, I guess, before you tonight is a contract with Parametrics for engineering services for the Viewridge Safe Up School Phase 2 project. This was discussed before the committee on 17th of February. Agenda next week. So just a quick overview to get your bearings. This is a continuation of what we just recently talked about for phase 1 with kind of the pivot and scope there with the new school construction. The scope is going to be consistent with phase 1. I've sketched out a little section there kind of showing the constrained or the consolidated roadway section with the wide 11-foot wide shared use path on the east side of the roadway and a new sidewalk on the west side. So once this project is in place with phase 1, that'll represent nearly a mile of new active transportation facilities serving the East Burlington area, surrounding areas. The project is fully funded, and again, WashDOT's been a great partner, so nearly $6 million in state grant funding has been awarded to support this project. So that's wonderful news. These are just some representative photos. I know everyone's very familiar with the corridor. Kind of a varied section, the southern section, more of a narrow rural type roadway. And then I think the northern sections we all know with the Blue Ridge Apartments, much wider pavement section there. And some front improvement made by the development there on the apartments. So Parametrics was selected as the most qualified firm. We had 3 firms submit. 2 of those were qualified. Parametrics was the highest scored firm out of the 2 that were interviewed. We've spent a lot of time negotiating a comprehensive scope of work with them for the project. Kind of bullet pointed some of those in the presentation. I think a copy of the contract in the packet. Their total contract amount has been negotiated at $940,000, $940,737. And that includes engineering services through the end of construction. So we have been very cognizant of making sure that their contracts are inclusive of all the engineering services through the construction phase. And probably the most important thing is this contract is 100% grant eligible. So with this state grant, we do not have a local match. So every dollar of this contract will get submitted for reimbursement from the state. Just a quick update. We recently mailed out over 700 postcards to residents and businesses in the area, just giving them an update on both of the Viewridge projects with information on the schedule. Obviously, the phase 1 schedule has shifted a little bit in scope. Also to inform them of the upcoming design for phase 2 and upcoming community meetings to be scheduled later this spring to share some of the early concepts. Of course, we're going to continue to share information with the public through the design process, keep our coordination with Burlington schools. Obviously, Transit is a big stakeholder on this project with Almira Drive being on a fixed bus route. And of course, the county, since the project limits intersect Rydell Road, which the county currently has plans for either a future traffic signal or a roundabout. So we're going to be working with the county, and part of our contract is to study that intersection and kind of determine and make sure that whatever that recommendation is, this project is as forward compatible as possible. This from a budget standpoint, really what I'm trying to reflect here is the local revenues and the WashDOT grant. So you can see the 3 phases of capital projects that we look at: preliminary engineering, right-of-way construction. You can see that all the local revenues come into play during construction, and that local revenue cost is intended to cover what we included as a match, quote unquote match at the time of grant application to make our application competitive. It also includes anticipated cost for some minor utility improvements and some of the paving improvements that we're hoping to potentially reduce cost on through some geotechnical analysis of the existing road out there. I know we've got a lot of complaints about potholes and pavement condition on Almira, so that's an area we'll be looking at, but unfortunately some of that may not be covered by the grant that was And then this slide shows a kind of a high level schedule. That first line shows the anticipated construction for phase one happening during 2027. So you can see with the approval of this contract this month, we'll be working to expedite the concept designs and get in front of the community as soon as possible. There's going to be a lot of work, as typical for the size of the project, to get through the final design permitting phase. We anticipate a little bit of right of way may be needed for temporary construction easements, things like that, similar to what we have for phase one. And we're targeting the end of 2027 to start the bid phase on this project, which hopefully, fingers crossed, aligns perfectly. So the construction from phase one will roll right into phase two. And then this is just a reminder to the public that you can get project information by going to our project website and on transportation projects and going to the phase two project. So with that, I will stop sharing and answer questions.
I go to the chair of Public Works Committee.
Safe Routes to School program is just so great. And I heard just today, I think, that the transportation budget passed and they've doubled the Safe Routes to School funding for this year. I don't know where it's going after this year. But maybe I don't know what you probably told me what our plans are for this year, and it's not related to this. And I've forgotten that, boy, let's keep taking advantage of those Safe Routes to School projects. And I really hope that the county decides to select, is it Pinecrest?
Yeah.
Pinecrest.
Yeah.
Because that would be the perfect opportunity for the county to do something that feels so good for the community at the same time that we're trying to get some solutions for Pine Road down in our area. Wouldn't it be great, as long as we're working on the Almira project with the county and we're singing Kumbaya, we can just roll that into the Pine Road and get us Safe Routes to School for Pinecrest, not our school district, not our purview, but just in case Katie Walters is listening. That'd be great.
I like the plug.
So excited about the upcoming community meeting, and it just feels like it's been going well, Nick. And I haven't been aware of too many stumbling points, and you've negotiated those very well. You know, for those listening, when the school unveiled its plans to build the new Viewridge, our plans were to put. I mean, we had to take a look and say, whoa, they're moving the school. And they were busy on that, and we were trying to meet. And so it took a while, but you did a great job, it seems to me, in a pretty short amount of time, reworking this plan to fit a completely different plan for the school. I would love at some point when this is all over to combine the school district investment in Viewridge, which will be many millions of dollars, and then the city's investment in infrastructure along there, which has been mighty as well. So maybe we can get that down the road.
Yeah, I'm envisioning, some sort of ribbon cutting at some point.
Yeah. And again, anybody else? I'm just going to sing praises.
Is anybody else from Public Works Committee?
Yeah, thank you. It would be really great to have phase two happen at Crown Hills Elementary in District 6. But moving right along, there were a couple of things that came up during the Public Works Committee hearing, and one of them was that this particular contract with Parametric has a do not exceed clause. Do I have that correct?
Yes, so we are utilizing our city standard professional services agreement. I want to make sure it's clear that when we say not to exceed, so we define a specific scope of deliverable, right? So the budget is the budget estimate at the time. Obviously, we go through, rounds and rounds of negotiations with consultants. So the not to exceed amount basically says that the contractor cannot exceed that budget amount based on the scope and deliverables. If some unforeseen condition comes up, say, we didn't know there was this major
At the guy.
pipeline or something, and we need to design around it, we need to bring in specialty services. Okay, so that's not scope. So that's when we would, number one, look at what we incorporate as management reserve funds in our contract. That's our contingency. So that's
20%.
small percentage. So it reduces the administrative burden of having to come to council for small stuff we know is going to happen likely during the design of the project. So if that amount is exceeded and it's out of, we determine that it's out of scope, then we would be coming back to council, or depending on the amount, depending on the mayor's authorization amounts, we would determine at that point if the change in scope constitutes something to increase the contract amount. So, but yes, not to exceed. So if the consultant busted their budget and it takes them twice as long to deliver what they said they're going to deliver, well, they're going to have a write-off at the end of the project, right?
Okay, thank you. I said that for the rest of council and for the public, because I think that's a very useful clause. And my final question is, you mentioned the scoring. Is that, if I ask you what is the scoring, is that a long answer that will make this a long meeting?
So when you say what is the scoring, so
You scored the different responses to the request for bids.
correct. So we have a two-step process. So we put out a request for qualifications, and then we review. Well, first of all, we make sure that the submitted statements of qualification meet our criteria. All of the three that submitted met the criteria. So we then score. We have a team of evaluators. We independently score those, and from that point, we determine a shortlist for interviews. And then we bring the shortlisted firms in for interviews. Similar scoring methodology. We have the same evaluation team, score those independently, and come up with a selection based on the interviews of shortlisted firms. So in this case, the scores were based on that process, and Parametrics had the high score of the shortlisted.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Council President.
Jennifer, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm coming in new, and I'm sorry that I didn't ask these questions during Public Works, but can you remind me of the public outreach process for this? As far as the specifically, I'm sorry, let me be specific, the neighbors that are affected. So the driveways, all the impacts to the actual neighbors that are going to be had during the process of this.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So typically, so for phase, I can talk about
Phase 3, I guess.
Phase 2, and then kind of what we've done for phase 1. So
Okay.
For phase 2, for this contract, we're in a situation where we're not asking the community visioning what this project's going to look like. We did a lot of that visioning through early planning process. We had multiple open houses for phase 1, which touched on this phase 2, knowing it was going to be a future project.
Mm-hmm.
So the community was invited to provide input on that. So our approach is to focus the early outreach and input on specifics to phase 2, whether that's traffic calming features. There's parking that's going to be impacted. There's some of the residents, specifically on the south half of phase 2, that park along the street.
Yeah.
So, similar to phase 1, that was an area that we worked and said, okay, well, maybe we can, we've got only so much right of way. We know we have to fit these components into the project. So maybe there's opportunities to carve out a little bit of on-street parking. We like parking because it's a visual feature. It slows traffic. I didn't mention the quick build traffic calming. So from what I understand, that is something that is sounds like it's going to move forward. I think we're working on a communication plan. So, potentially there's messaging with this upcoming outreach as far as, that interim quick build traffic calming, evaluating how that's going to work. And then based on that input, that's going to kind of help us reframe the design. There's not going to be a whole lot of input until we start getting to right-of-way type needs. So property owners that will need access for driveway regrading, things like that. That's a whole separate process.
Right.
That we follow regulations as far as notification to the property owners. We just, for instance, on phase one, we had a property owner, non-English speaking property owner. So we're working with a translator, meeting with them, trying to help them understand what we're doing with the project, what to expect during construction. And then as we get closer to construction, I always like to have some sort of dialogue with the community as far as what to expect during construction. So that's something I anticipate for phase one to happen, especially with the impacts of transit on this corridor. So a lot of the residents in that area heavily rely on transit, and unfortunately, it's going to be a real challenge to have kids at transit keep their buses operating on that roadway during construction.
Well, there's Petersville's right parallel, which I see are there any streets that don't connect to Petersville on the one side, and then we have Maple, Hollis to Maple. So, how come kids have transit can go to Petersville?
So that's part of the discussion with. They have probably their own process for determining
Okay.
ultimate
All right.
routing.
Sorry.
But it's our job, in addition to kids at transit, to make sure the residents know what to expect. I don't like to sugarcoat that it's going to be a nice, clean construction project because we're tearing up the entire roadway. So there's going to be some inconveniences. I like to set that expectation early. Understand what maybe different folks maybe have concerns about, and then address those continuously during construction.
Will the floating bicycle lane make sense after this is completed?
Floating bicycle lane.
The green floating bicycle lane by this, you know what I'm talking about.
Green floating bicycle.
Green floating bicycle lane.
Yeah, over on Rydell, that little chunk that's
Oh,
not
good.
complete. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Will it be a little bit more contiguous? That's the county's deal, but anyway, I see it maybe making a little more sense if it's coming
No,
on.
that's
that
our
line.
deal.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's
Oh,
our deal.
is-
That's our side.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
that goes in the whole discussion of
Yeah.
what is the intersection of
Yeah.
Almira and Rydell going to look like. Potentially,
It's a game changer.
there is a off ramp for bikes to get onto the sidewalk on Rydell
Mhm.
and have some sort of connection to the shared use path on Almira. There's some really weird property constraints. You've got a house that has a driveway right up against the intersection.
Yeah.
There's some design challenges that we'll just have to
Okay.
kind of figure out.
And I will ask more questions later on in the game. Thank you I really just want to make sure that there's a plan for before we get too far down the line, that neighbors are actually aware of what's happening in their neighborhood. I think everybody's connected by an alleyway or by Petersville but I just don't want anybody to be surprised that they're blocked in yeah. All right. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just as a follow-up.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the question because as you know, there are a lot of people with disabilities that live right in that area. And those bus stops are full, of people with canes or in wheelchairs. So getting them up to Petersville, transit will work it out, I'm sure, but I need area there.
And we'll have to work with the businesses. Tamarack Apartments. That's housing authority. So we need to make sure that not only it's hard for us to communicate to an entire apartment complex. So we're heavily going to rely on their management to make sure that
Good.
they're getting the messages to their residents.
Okay, Rick.
Okay. So I drove this today. I drove Almira.
Oh, great.
And from Riddell to about Ivy, that's a good road. There are sidewalks.
On one side.
Mhm.
Hey.
Nevertheless, there are sidewalks.
Right. Yes.
And I also don't know why we say that's that's part of what I would call the circle as far as a safe route to school. Those kids are riding school buses. They're not walking or bicycling. My question has to do with if we don't do phase two, how much money gets returned to the general fund?
If we don't do phase two, let's see, we have in the CIP, $647,000 in stormwater utility tax revenue, $205,000 in REIT,
Project location.
and, we've got $600,000 in stormwater capital fund and $170,000 in the wastewater capital fund. So that's the non-grant revenues currently budgeted in the CIP.
And would we ever get another safe routes to school?
Okay,
grant?
let's-
Well,
Split
I
it.
would,
I wait, now I still have the floor.
Yes, you do.
All I'm saying is from Ivy to View Ridge, I agree that circle, that whatever you want to call it, I agree. But Elmira could use some speed tables or some whatever you call them, because it is a bit of a raceway, similar to what the county has done across the street in front of Kitsap Mental Health. But that's $1 million. We at some point have to quite decide where we're going to get money back to the general fund for police officers, for support of homeless, and those sorts of things. So I'm a no on this. So if you're going to put it on the consent agenda,
Well, wait a minute, let him
All right.
finish.
so we've got to look for opportunities to put more money back in the city's coffers. And like I said, I drove Elmira today. Elmira is a beautiful road. It's got sidewalks. It looks like it was resurfaced not too long ago. And the homes on what would be the west side, there are some homes along there. And then the next street up is Petersville, which is in the county. So, council member Mockler talked about safe routes around Crown Hill. I could talk about safe routes around Kitsap Lake. But I'm just saying that, is this something that we really need to do? If it could return $1 million back to our.
Now, I'd like him to repeat those
Okay.
numbers because those weren't all general fund money.
Correct.
Correct, yeah, so, stormwater utility tax, I'm assuming is that general fund?
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
The utility tax and the REIT.
So that's,
And are we doing any utility work while we're at the street torn up and stuff?
Well, that's what the other utility, like
Yeah.
the stormwater. and
Yeah.
power.
So that's $850,000 in general fund revenues budgeted right now. So, as I mentioned,
It's not like
part of
did
this
benefit
design
from the
process
rates,
is
I would
looking
like
to try to minimize, we don't need to do a full reconstruction of the pavement. We want to know what those opportunities are. Obviously, we're changing the cross section of the roadway, so it's not, there may not be an opportunity to pave. The other thing I just want to mention is, we have applied for, accepted, and we have already received funding obligations from WashDOT. So, not pursuing this project at this point would be a major red mark for the city for grant funding. And I worry not only do we have to basically pay back everything that's been reimbursed by WashDOT today, but it would probably, I would say, probably hurt our chances in future applications from the state.
Okay, again, the way you're characterizing, we really haven't done anything on phase 2 yet, correct?
Other than the staff time and expenses that we've had.
So we're not giving back, if we were to give money back, it would only be for phase 2. I'm not against phase 1.
Correct, I'm away, yeah, only phase 2. Correct.
Okay, phase 1, I think is something
It's my
that
turn.
is important. And when I drove through there, like I said, those streets, there are potholes and whatnot, which you said the project doesn't fill the potholes. So there's other things in that area and it's not that I'm not against safe routes to school. Okay, don't characterize it that way. I'm looking for money for our city. We are a poor city. We have priorities that.
They don't bus less than a mile.
Wait, please.
Look it up.
I know that,
Okay.
Jennifer, but that's almost 2 miles.
Counselor Tift has.
I have the floor. I checked that too. From Ivy to the end of Riddell, from View Ridge to Ivy is about a mile. Agreed. That's why that circle, if you draw a line around View Ridge 1 mile out, it does encompass Ivy. But beyond Ivy is more than a mile. And so those are kids that are riding the bus. And again, I don't want to characterize as I'm against safe routes to school. I'm not. I'm trying to find money for the other priorities that we have in this city. And so that's my point. And, we had to give some money back, so be it.
Okay,
So anyway, that's my comment.
Michael?
Just quick, I understand both sides. I support this project, but this is also a situation where we take a dollar here. I'll use examples. We take $1.62 and we get $5.90 out of it, right? So that's like really smart, and we're accomplishing, safety. We're maybe doing some upgrades to the street infrastructure, the utilities and things like that. So we're giving up literally more money than we're recouping. But I do understand what you're saying, but I'm a big fan of Safe Routes to School. Thank you.
Okay, so my turn. Number one, and this has got nothing to do with what other people have said. I want to encourage you that while this is under construction or prior to it being under construction, the cross streets that are going to be getting a lot more traffic because the road is closed, right? Because you're rebuilding it, that you consider putting some temporary traffic control on that so we don't have the same situation that neighbors had off of 6th Street when there's long-term detours. A lot of people are still cutting through. So that's one thing. Second thing is we're supposed to be getting another 25,000 people living in this town, and they're not all going to be driving cars, especially in that neighborhood. There's lots of people who don't have cars to drive. They're going to be walking, riding a bike, taking a bus, and that is the main route to get to Kitsap Mental Health. Right now, people aren't even allowed to cross the street at Rydell because there's no safe crossing for them. So we have to make this a city for everybody. And Michael's right. We're spending far less than we're getting back in grant funding. So I fully support this. And it's Safe Routes to School, which is the name of the grant, but it's safe routes for so many other people that, I mean, we can't just rely on everybody driving a nice new car. It's not going to happen. Jennifer?
It's 1.1 miles. I don't know I need you to look that up again so you come in with accurate. What I got is 1.1 miles. So
Point of order, Council
Yeah.
President. Can we do the whole courtesy, decorum, and respect thing, please?
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and I've been on school buses. I was a paraeducator for a little while on school buses and worked with school district, and so I'm well aware of they will bus preschoolers and in some cases. But it's 1.1 miles, so I think most of it is covered by the unbused section.
Okay, it's your turn. Go ahead, Denise.
I'm concerned ongoing about the challenges to council decisions that have already been made. Council decisions that have already been made in directions that we're already moving in. Pushing back against a future project, fine, but trying to stop a project that has been promised to our constituents who have been, and driving Almira once does not make you an expert, does not make one an expert. I know my district. It's a runway at Almira. It's way too wide. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons that the city is deciding to do something about it, is because people go up to 80, 90 miles an hour when they come up Rydell and they make that right. Mm-hmm. That's not safe. The county is concerned about it enough where I think we can make something happen at that intersection at Rydell and Almira, and maybe the county will take it all the way up to Tucson, I hope. We're trying to save pennies when the impact to our community is in the millions. And we have been doing this for far too long. We've got to get better vision, people. You've got to see how things are connected. You take one little domino out of that thing and it'll all fall apart. So this, to me, we've accepted this, and to have to defend these decisions over and over again, I think that there's a lack of respect that's being shown to council and its previous decisions that weren't that long ago.
Well, Council President, when you have a minute, I have my
We already
hand up.
voted on all this,
Okay, well,
not on the construction, not on the consulting.
people who are newly on the council still have the right to give their opinions. And they may not agree with opinions that former councils had. And, we still have to listen to what they have to say. You don't have to.
It's disrespectful.
Okay, but they do have the right to state what their opinions are, just because they weren't on council last year or 4 years ago when this all started moving. So I think Anna's next, and then you, Rick.
Right. Had you finished?
Yeah.
So I originally raised my hand some millennia ago to say I'm on the Kitsap Transit Board. Can I be of use in bringing this up? This is my first of 2 questions, or 3.
Well, that's a statement.
Okay. Well, to move on to a question, can I be of use in letting the board and the management of Kitsap Transit know that extraordinary measures will be needed down the line?
I don't think that will hurt. I will say publicly that, the relationship that we have with Kitsap Transit on these capital projects is great. They're great to work with. They're very responsive. I think they do a great job of pivoting, because during construction things happen, and they're very forgiving when they have to pivot. So I appreciate that, and yeah, maybe we can find.
Well, I will email you, and we'll do that offline. And hey, it can't hurt to bring it up in front of the 3 county commissioners. My next question, which is actually a statement. So Rick, I was a brash new counselor once myself, and if you look to your left at Michael Goodnow, you will see there are still lines carved in his brow from my well, fair enough. From my first few months here, because it's really difficult to understand what you can do in the scope of things. It really is. I have actual sincere sympathy with you on this one. And I think everybody at this table agrees that we have to find money somewhere. Looking down when we walk has not been working out for us, as a way to find money. I would also say that Kitsap Lake Elementary School is the only school in Bremerton, to my knowledge, that has had a phase 2 completed. So when you're saying that Kitsap Lake would like money, it's hard for us almost done. It's hard for us to sympathize with you on that one, because Kitsap Lake Elementary is a gold-plated project. It's extensive. If anybody has driven that, I've driven it more than once, even though it is not my district. It is beautiful. I don't know what more to say to you, except to say that I think that if we can try to figure out, and here I mean all of us, all 7 of us, if we can try to figure out, when I came on, there were 5 new counselors in what, 2 months, Michael? Yeah.
How did we make it through?
Yeah. So we were all just like kind of going, wow. So please forgive us if we get, we've been doing this like, not you, Denise, but I am a hair flip there. We've been doing this like so long. Because we're trying not to do that. But it's also true that, there was such chaos when 5 of us came on within, was it 2 months, Michael? Am I right? Yeah. That,
We were a little late.
We kept your seat warm. Waiting for you.
Okay, let's.
can we
Finish
just
the-
pause for a minute? And,
Can we
and just
finish?
to say, I don't think anybody here is disrespecting what you said. Okay, that's it. Hold on.
Okay, Rick.
If, I guess I'm puzzled if this is a done deal, why is it on our agenda? If phase 2 is a done deal, why is it on our agenda? And if that's the case, then I'll sit back down. And I do agree. And as far as my experience with Almira, I grew up over there, so I do have a lot of experience with Riddell and Almira.
How long ago was that?
I lived 50 years on, so,
Okay, let's.
but my point is, when I drove Almira most recently, I agree that there needs to be some traffic calming. I agree that there needs to be, whether there's speed tables or something to slow that down, because you are right. It is a good road that could easily, you could get 50, 60 miles an hour on there, no sweat. So this project isn't going to slow traffic. It's going to put sidewalks on either side from what I saw. And yeah, that'll slow traffic because it'll narrow the roadway. But I still think there's probably some need for, and I'm getting off track. My point is, if it's on here and we decide and there's money that could go back to the general fund, that's all I want to know. If it's a done deal and you've already made the decision and
That's why it's called phase 2, because we were talking about it as one big project. And they couldn't do the whole thing at once. So it was phase 1 and phase 2. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of discussions about it, and it goes together, and they have,
supportive of phase 1. That
well, that's not what we're talking about tonight. Tonight is contract for phase 2. Yes.
I
Nick?
just want to be clear that the general fund money is, it's in the CIP, which is our financial plan for the project. It's in 2027 and 2028. This is a financial plan. So there may be other grant opportunities
Right.
that present themselves between now and then. We just had a great conversation with the Transportation Improvement Board. They're increasing their budget for the complete search program. So
Oh, yeah.
I just want to caveat that, we're always going after grants, and the way things have been, it's kind of uncertain with grants and different agencies and what the, different funding pots are going to be. But I just wanted to caveat that general fund money is an out year budget, and that, we're, if the grant presents itself, we're always going to find opportunities to set that.
Can I?
Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead. Thank
I
you,
just,
Nick.
this is a great time to ask all the questions, and I really appreciate that you're trying to be fiscally responsible and bring money back into the general fund. I think, is my understanding correct? We've already approved that phase 1, 2, and 3 will happen. What we're doing at this point in time is approving the contract for phase 2. So when you're out, yes, we can kill it. We can kill the whole thing. What a waste of taxpayer dollars that would be for phase 1. But I feel like, again, I don't think you have consensus, and I'd like to move forward. If you want it on the general, it's fine, but I'd like to see it on consent to move forward. But whatever y'all think is right, I'd like to move forward.
Well, does anybody else have any comments on this?
No.
Okay, so do we want it on consent or on general?
Consent.
I want hands. I personally want it on consent.
Consent. But it only takes one
So-
council.
It takes one to put it
Right.
on general.
But then it takes 2 to put it back on consent, right?
Mhm.
Yep. So if you want to put on general, Denise, I'd like to see it on consent. Yep.
I mean,
What-
we can
is there a
have it on.
Well,
I think Kylie's reviewing that. Hold on. Oh, okay.
Pretty sure it's in the rules and procedures.
It is.
I was gonna say, don't we all have a copy?
Yes, we all have a copy.
Why is it a matter of fact?
Okay, so So here's something I'd
Maybe
like
he
to
doesn't
bring up.
even want, maybe we're putting
Go ahead
words.
and put it in consent, but I want you to understand that I'm gonna continue to do this. I'm gonna continue to search for money in our budget
Mhm.
and try to seek to understand where we are in many of these things. Because we're gonna talk later in tonight about some of the other challenges facing our city. And, you know, any nickel, any dime, any penny that we can recoup
Mm.
is important to me. And that's what we, in my opinion, that's what we need to be doing. So, fine, put it on consent, not.
I mean, we can have it on general. If we have it on general, all that means is Nick has to come again to the council meeting next week
Great presentation.
PowerPoint it up.
and PowerPoint it
Yeah.
up. I mean, that's the difference between it being on
There'll be a lot
general
of people
or,
that would show up in support of that.
yes, there would.
Yeah.
Michael?
It's fine, put it on consent. I'm happy with it.
So, like, where I kind of sit with this, a project like this this comes down to my values, right? And that's really all I can bring to this table. And, you know, hopefully my values are out there. Folks vote for me because I'm the only choice this time, but. And I just, so, you know, it's just, you know, getting kids in neighborhoods and getting to school and on, you know, like, it's almost getting rarer and rarer anyways. You create these great communities around what's going to be a new school and things like that. It just really seems like delivering the total package for students. And, but I really appreciate, what you're trying to do. And maybe there's just a way that there's a safe word. And you see something, muskrat or something, and,
It's all multimodal.
we'll know that we can look deeper into something. But for me, it's just, again, it's for students, it's for the, you know, the school area, helps connect that bigger residential neighborhood to the, not just to the schools, to the library, to the Boys and Girls Club, to, you know, the gym that's there, even to the market that's there and things like that.
Groceries the other way too.
It's a very weird area right now.
Much appreciated.
I think this
Is that yours?
Is just important stuff.
Okay, thank you, Patty.
Okay, so how should we treat this?
Consent.
I think we have consent.
Okay.